Rangers fans, welcome to Liberty Blue, the essential New York Rangers podcast. I'm Andrew Chelney alongside Nick Zararis. And Nick, we have a legend rejoining the show once again today. He is the longtime voice of the New York Rangers in what will be his final season, a pillar of the community. It is the great Sam Rosen. Sam, welcome back. How you been?
I'm good, Andrew. Nick, I'm just fine. And we're getting closer and closer to the start of a new season. It's exciting.
Before we get to the Rangers stuff, on behalf of Nick and I, we want to congratulate you on a spectacular Hall of Fame career. Wanted to ask you off the rip here, what led you to take a step back and realize this was the final season for me? What led to that?
I think there are a lot of factors. There are emotional factors. There are age factors, there are family factors, and I think it all mixes in. I think there's mixed emotions on my part. I know I keep quoting Andy Murray, the tennis pro, who said when he announced that he was going to retire at Wimbledon, he said, "My heart says I want to do this forever. My head says I can't." And that's basically the philosophy that I've adopted. You get to a point where, it's a long season. There's a lot of travel involved. And I think you tend to tire a little bit. And personally, I want to make sure, and I've said this to my family for several years, I want to make sure that I go out on top and still at my best. And I feel that's where I'm at right now. And this is a good time to do this. And hopefully I'll inspire the Rangers for a glorious season.
That's the end goal. The one question I had before we get to the actual Rangers, what would you go back and tell yourself back then, your first day, right now? If you could have a conversation with the you who sat down in that booth for the first time, what would you tell younger you?
Enjoy every single day and every single game, and enjoy the places you get to go to, the cities you go to, and the people that you get to meet, and the players that you get to cover. It's, the cliche of living the dream. It's basically it, because the only thing better would be if I were scoring 40 goals a season and making $10 million a year. But this is pretty good. And I've had a wonderful run and worked and lived in the city where I grew up, and rooting for this team, and been around it for as long as I have. And it's just been very, very special. So getting back to the short answer is enjoy every minute.
Want to ask you about moving to the Rangers here. Wanted to ask you about the mental side of this team now. It's, for the most part, it's the same team, and yet there's that barrier that the Rangers haven't crossed yet. But it's, for the most part, it's the same faces, the same names. They have Reilly Smith that we'll hit on in a minute here. But what is the mentality of this team? The biggest difference from last season's preseason to now? What have you seen?
Well, I think right now, based on what I felt in the locker room during training camp, talking to the players, there's an air of confidence on this team that they belong. They belong right in the mix of things. They belong in the conversation as to what team could go a long way and maybe win the Stanley Cup. They belong there. I think they proved that with the kind of season they had last year, 114 points, winning the President's Trophy. But now, as you said, they need to take that next big step, and it's a big step. They got to the conference final a couple of seasons ago against Tampa, lost in 6 after being up 2-0 in that series. Last season, up against Florida, 2-1, losing 6. Florida goes on to win the cup. It is really hard to win I think they realized that. I think that Chris Drury felt he's got the great players, the high-end players, that it's worth keeping together for at least this one more season. We'll see what happens afterwards. They've got the great pieces in place. And now, if a couple of players can step up, maybe they have the tools that can get them there. If not, maybe he makes the deals at the trade deadline to get the guys that might be the missing pieces. But it's a team that's certainly worthy of consideration for going a long way.
What's it been like to watch the growth of guys who we're talking about 4th, 5th, 6th seasons at this point, for people like Adam Fox, Capo Caco, a little bit younger, Alexis Lafrenière, 3-4 years, Keandre Miller, 3-4 years. What's that like now? You know, it kind of sounds weird to say about guys who are a little younger than me, but like, I look at those guys as kids.
You watch them come in and you watch them grow as players and see them develop. Lafrenière is a great example. There's a lot of pressure to be picked number 1 overall in the entire draft. The expectations among the fans is, oh, we're getting an instant superstar. We're getting Sidney Crosby. We're getting Connor McDavid. Well, no, he's not the instant superstar, but watching his development, here he is 5 years later, and he has blossomed into a high-end player, and he's on the cusp of being a star in this league. If, you know, maybe some consider him already, but right now he's playing with good players. He shows he belongs on that line with the top players, and I think that his improvement and his development was a big factor in last year's run. Now, if they could get something similar from Capo Caco, who knows? Maybe that's one of the missing links. Philip Hedl, another very talented player. Caco obviously drafted number 2 overall. Hedl further down, but Hedl has got tons of talent. If he can find a way to avoid injury, to stay healthy, he could give them a depth of talent. That line that they've put together, that they've kept together in camp. Will Cooley on the left side, Hedl in the middle, Capo Caco on the right. That's a pretty good line as a third line, if you will. You talked about Keandre Miller. I remember watching him walk into training camp, and David Quinn was the Rangers head coach at the time, and he kind of took him under his wing. But instantly, when he came in, he found a way to make the team. His size, his presence, his athletic ability, and you watch him make the team, and he's been there since day one, and you see his development. And yet, when I spoke with him during camp just a couple of days ago, he wants more from himself. He's not satisfied with the way he played. I thought he played well last year. He didn't like the way he played, or at least the full package wasn't there for him. He wants to add more. That's a great sign. That means you've got a star player on the rise. You mentioned Adam Fox. He's already established himself as one of the top defensemen, offensive defensemen, however you want to classify him in the league. He is a smart player. He's kind of a perfect fit for your team. He does all the little things. He sees the ice well. He makes the pass at the right time. He skates the puck at the right time. Not the fastest, not the strongest, but certainly one of the best. So there's a lot of talent there. And to answer your question, Nick, and I know I'm being long-winded, it's really interesting and fun to watch these players develop and realize there's a reason why the Rangers are one of the better teams in the league. They've brought in these talented players and they've allowed them to develop. And we've seen that with a player like Chris Kreider, who came in, you go all the way back 12, 13 years ago. Chris Kreider comes out of Boston College and he's still here and he's gotten better. He's aged very, very well. He continues to be a force and is recognized around the league as one of the top power forwards in the game.
You mentioned Lafrenière. I wanted to ask about him specifically because at this point last year, we had you on and we were wondering about Lafrenière and what he was going to be and if he could take that next step. I mean, he was incredible last season. He really took that step. We were wondering about that, and he really put his foot forward and showed not only to us, but not to you as well, but like to not to himself that he can do this. And he really had the best season of his career at the NHL level. What did you see out of him that kind of led to that change? And can he take another step forward this season?
Well, I think you said it best, Andrew. Belief in himself. Earlier, I mentioned the pressure of being the number one pick overall. Everyone is watching. Every story that comes. Oh, did Alexis Lafrenière make the team? Did he stick with the Rangers? He comes to the Rangers at 18, going on 19. I mean, that is really tough. I mean, this is a man's league and a man's game, and it's tough. And he had to find a way. I mean, all the players have to do it. Some do it by coming up through the minor leagues, but as the number one pick overall, the pressure on the organization is to put him in the lineup and keep him there and find a way to play him. That's a tough thing to do. If you're a head coach, your guy Gerard Gallant had to face that. It's a tough thing to insert an 18 or 19-year-old in your lineup and get him the minutes that he needs to be a star. You can't play him 20 minutes as an 18-year-old. So they had to bring him along. They brought him along slowly. He's developed. He believes in himself. And I think playing with the players that he's played with, a lot of time with Artemi Panarin, and the last two seasons now with Vincent Trocheck has really helped him. I think now it's up to the coaches to find more ways to get him on the ice. A little more power play time, maybe. It's hard to do with the players they have on a very successful power play that's third in the league. So they've got to find ways to get him on the ice as much as possible because he's proven he belongs on the ice. He can make the plays. He can skate with everybody. And he's proven he can handle the physical part of the game. He never shies off. He initiates contact. He's right in the middle of things. And he's got all the tools. He's got a good enough shot. He's good around the net for finishing touches. And he sees the ice well. He came up being a playmaker. He was a playmaker in junior, looked to make the plays. They've got him to shoot more the last couple of seasons, and the end result is he scores 28 goals and gets close to 60 points. This is a player who's only going to continue to get better.
With the Rangers being so solidified roster-wise, what do you try and take away from the preseason when there's not a lot of spots up for grabs?
You kind of look to see what are the coaches doing to improve the overall team play, to make them a little bit better, so that, I spoke with Adam Fox and I said, when you analyze last season and analyze the Florida series, what did you come up with? And he held his fingers about 3/4 of an inch apart and said, this close. They lost 3 games by 1 goal, 2 of them in overtime. And when you realize 1 or 2 plays that might have gone differently, make 1 or 2 fewer mistakes, make 1 or 2 better plays and finish. And suddenly, instead of losing in 6, maybe you win in 6 and you go on and you're in the Stanley Cup final and you're playing for the big prize. So they're close. So I'm looking at the team and saying, okay, What are they trying to do to get to that next step, to be a little bit better? Is it better conditioning? Team's in great shape. They work hard. Part of it is mental, that mental approach. Peter Laviolette stresses effort and work ethic. He said, when you have two teams that are basically equal in talent, what's going to separate them? The effort and the work ethic. Who's got that little extra to give that will put them over the top? And you look at the players that they have, I think the management has showed confidence in the players and saying, okay, we think you're good enough. We're bringing most of you back, and we're going to plug in one or two other guys. And I think that's basically what you're looking at in training camp. What are they doing to get a little bit better? Now, also what I see is, where are the opportunities for someone to make the team, to make the roster? Well, already a couple of injuries. Ryan Lindgren gets injured in the game against the Islanders. He's out for a couple of weeks. That opens up a spot on defense. You look at the forwards. Jimmy Vesey gets hurt in practice. He's out for a couple of weeks. That opens up a spot. Matt Rempe established himself at the end of last season as a force to be reckoned with. He worked very hard in the offseason, stayed around New York, worked out with Chris Kreider and his physical trainer, and is strong. He's 6'7", 250, looks like a tight end that the Giants could use. But that's a guy that if he can gain the trust of the coaches to play 10 to 12 minutes a game rather than 4 or 6 minutes a game, suddenly you've got a player who's tough to handle. Who's going to handle him if he's screening the goaltender? What defenseman is big enough to handle him in front if he can tip pucks and get the rebounds? Then they've got another big player in Adam Edstrom, 6'7", not as physical as Rempe, but great size, athletic ability. So suddenly, you've got some options for the coaching staff to make decisions on as you head toward the start of the season. And if these players can contribute, then the team suddenly is maybe a little bit better than they were last year.
And Matt Rempe was one of the guys I wanted to talk to you about, actually, because he kind of showed up, I don't want to say out of nowhere, but people didn't expect him to kind of hang around, and then he did. Fan favorite. I know the locker room loves him. Fans love him. He's a fan favorite in the city, but he didn't play a lot, especially in the playoffs. Peter Laviolette maybe didn't trust him enough down the stretch. He got scratched for Blake Wheeler in one game. I think it was against Florida. And overall, he just didn't have the confidence of Laviolette and the rest of the team to go out there. And when he was dressed, he only played 5, 6, 7 minutes. What is it going to take for a guy like Matt Rempe to not only show that he can play 12, 13 minutes consistently, but have the trust of the rest of the staff to put him out there for 12, 13 minutes? What is that going to look like? And what was that disconnect like last season?
Well, I think last season you're talking about a 21-year-old kid who was a fifth or sixth round draft pick, and suddenly he gets an opportunity. He becomes a physical presence. He makes his debut at MetLife Stadium, and he's challenged by Matt Martin, and then he goes to Philadelphia, and he's challenged there. Everywhere he went, there was another physical challenge. I think what it's going to take is Matt Rempe has proven he belongs in the league. He needs to show he can be a player, and he wants to be a player. That's the first good thing. He wants to be a player. He doesn't just want to be a big guy that goes on the ice and, okay, let's have a fight. No, he wants to play, and that's what it's going to take for him to prove to the coaches he can play. I would say also he's got to be careful. officials look at him, they watch him. He's bigger than most guys, so when he hits, sometimes he hits high. Not intentionally, it's just he's bigger than most guys. So he's not going to crouch down and hit, but he's got to be careful about where his elbows are, where the contact is when he hits, and where his stick is at all times. If he can prove that he can play, get on the ice, not give up goals, score a couple here or there, win the battle of fourth line players when he gets out there, if he can get the confidence of the coaches, if they believe that in the third period, in a 3-3 game, they can put Matt Rempe on the ice with 6 or 7 minutes to go, then he will have gained their trust. And I've talked to people in the organization that know him, that have seen him in juniors. They believe that he can be that player that wins a battle in the corner, wins the puck, gets out in front of the net, screens the goaltender, maybe gets a rebound here or there, or opens up some room for his line mates. And suddenly that fourth line becomes a threat on the ice. Those are the things that he has to do. He has to show that he can stay on the ice, make sure he can keep up with the players, not give up anything, not be a minus player. And suddenly you've got a force on your hands that other teams have to worry about.
Speaking of earning trust, we've been waiting for Zac Jones to kind of get an opportunity and really seize it. What's come together for him this year, maybe that hasn't in the past few? Is it just opportunity or is it something more?
Little of everything, but also what we touched on before. Some of it is confidence. He's grown in confidence in his own ability. Before, there were nerves out there. He's a smaller player. He's also got to believe he can hold his own defensively, not give up goals, be able to work in front of the net against big, strong forwards, get leverage, move the puck quickly. That's something that's very, very important to his game. Because he's a smaller player, when he gets the puck on his stick, it's got to be moving. What I've seen thus far in the games he's played in preseason is he's very decisive. He'll either pass the puck quickly or he'll skate out. He'll skate it clear. He's a good skater. He'll join the rush. He's got more confidence in his own abilities. A good player, and he'll get an opportunity to play. I think the problem is you have a smaller player in Adam Fox. It's hard. You want to have some good size on the back end. Jacob Trouba is there. Braden Schneider is there. Keandre Miller is there. They've got a couple of big guys that they're looking at. In Victor Mancini, that's a guy that's come out of nowhere. Came out of college at the end of last year at Nebraska Omaha. He's shown very well. They loved him in rookie camp. They like him in the preseason. It'll be interesting to see whether he starts in Hartford and maybe is an early call-up. Good size. A guy they're looking at very closely is Matt Robertson. This is a former second-round draft pick. He's been around. He's been a pro for 5-6 years now. He's got to show something that he belonged. Connor Mackey is a little older, 28 years old. He's played a little bit in the league, got a call-up last year for a game, showed toughness. He's skated very well in preseason, so he's getting a look. Size is a factor, and you want to have that size and physical ability to clear the front of the net. So all those things will be considered when they finally choose the 6 or 7. They also have Chad Ruedel, who they brought in at the trade deadline, 33 years old, little older player, but skates well, not a big guy. So they'll have some decisions to make as far as what that defensive roster looks like. But as far as Zac Jones is concerned, certainly has skill, highly skilled player, moves the puck well, skates well. He's got to show he can hold his own in his own end in front of the net.
The Rangers have been looking for a right winger for Kreider and Zibanejad for a long time. And they've tried.
I'm available.
so are we. We're free agents, are we not? But they've been trying for a while to find that third player to play along those guys with, and it just hasn't worked out. They've tried again now with Reilly Smith. Do you think he's the fit? Can they stop looking? Obviously, it's preseason, so we haven't seen a lot of tape with those three guys together so far, but what have you seen out of Reilly Smith? And is this the guy that can finally slide in for the Rangers to be like, okay, fine, we finally figured it out. We've got our guy.
Too soon to tell. I think Reilly Smith is a veteran player, smart player. That's one thing. Skates well, can keep up with Zibanejad and Kreider, so he fits that mold. Left-handed shot, but can play the right side, which is where they put him, and they've kept that line together. They've skated this morning, so they won't be playing tonight in the game against the Devils, but they'll probably be playing Friday night against the Islanders in the final preseason game. They've kept that line together because they want to get a good look and see what they have. Championship caliber player. Has played with high-end players last season, played in Pittsburgh, really enjoyed the Sidney Crosby experience, didn't have the kind of season he wanted, wants to be more productive, needs to score some goals, but certainly I think he's a good fit. He and Chris and Mika do a lot of talking together on the bench, at practice. There's a lot of communication. I think they're looking, they want to make this happen. If it doesn't, I think they have other options. Capo Caco is certainly an option, even though I mentioned that line that they had put together and have kept together with Hedel and Will Cooley. But Capo Caco is one of those players. Can retrieve pucks, good physical player, good size, can go in front of the net. That's an option. Brennan Hoffman is knocking on the door. Former first-round draft pick, good shooter, can play the right side even though he's a left-handed shot. Good offensive player, has to show that he can handle the physical play. He's been physical in the preseason games thus far. Can he hold up doing that through the course of a full season? That remains to be seen. But those are the options they have. The first option is Reilly Smith, who's got great experience, as I mentioned, championship with the Vegas Golden Knights. He played with high-end players, understands the game, and I think is as easily fit in thus far on that line. Now, when the season starts, will he be productive? That remains to be seen, but he'll get the first shot, and they want that to succeed. I think they like the lines that they've put together, and if that line goes and Reilly Smith does a good job, then they've got something.
You had mentioned before when we were talking about the conference final that the margin was really that close. In your estimation, how much of this, of the Rangers not being able to break through, is just bad luck versus maybe needing to find a little bit more of the right mix of guys?
I don't know if it's bad luck. I think it's really hard to win in this league. We could sit here and go over the teams one by one, and you and I can give the fans reasons why that team has a shot at winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, there are half a dozen teams right away that are right in the mix, and then you throw in teams that are ready to step up, like the New Jersey Devils. There's a team that's got a lot of talent. They've got some size. They've got good players on the back end, and they brought in a goalie to help fix that team and take it back to the playoffs, where they feel they belong. But there are 6 to 8 teams that we could throw out there right away that, without question, have a chance to go all the way. And it's just good luck is always a part of it. Luck with injuries. When people say to me in September or October now, who do you think's going to win the Cup? Tell me who's in the lineup in March and April, and then we've got a conversation, because the teams will be different. Right away, Patrick Laine goes down. He's done for the season. This is a guy that was going to be a superstar in the league, and he suffered injury after injury. Now he goes down, and he's done for the season. You've got to have luck with injuries. You've got to have that goaltending, and thank goodness the Rangers' goaltending has been spectacular. Last year, you couldn't ask for better, and hopefully it'll only get better this season. So luck is involved, the right fit as far as players are concerned, and the growth of your young players. They're very, very important. Depth in the organization. I think the Rangers have that now. They could reach down to Hartford during the season, once the season starts, and bring up 3 or 4 players and plug them in, and they wouldn't miss a beat. So there's depth, there's talent, and there's luck.
We on the show try to be as objective as we can be with the team. If somebody's having a great game, a great week, a great month, we highlight that. And vice versa. If somebody's not having a great time, we also talk about that as well. And one of the guys that had a little bit of a rough stretch, let's say 5-on-5 last season, was Mika Zibanejad. And we asked you about him last season when we had him on. This past season, he went 30 games without a 5-on-5 goal, as I'm sure you know, as I'm sure Mika Zibanejad knows too. I'm sure this is not a surprise to him. It's not a surprise to anybody, really. So coming into this year, he knows he has to be better at 5-on-5. We know he has to be better at 5-on-5. What is he going to do differently that is going to see him achieve that? And do you think he will achieve that?
I think Mika Zibanejad is one of the top centers in the National Hockey League. And even though, you can point out the lack of production 5-on-5, but think of everything that Mika Zibanejad does. Let's list the things that he does. He plays center against every other team's best center. He's the number 1 center on the Rangers. He's got to play against the best center on the other team every single night. He plays on the top line minimum of 20 minutes a game. He plays on the number 1 power play, a driving force. He scores. He led the team in goals scored on the power play. The year before, it was Kreider leading the team on the power play. Who was setting him up? It's Mika. He is on the penalty kill. You could call him number 1 or number 2. He and Kreider are on the penalty kill. Every big situation involves Mika Zibanejad. I don't have a problem with his game. Would you want more? Yeah, I guess you would want more from him, but he does so much for the team. He is a great team player, and I don't know how much more you can ask him to do, but he'll do it. I mean, I believe in this guy. I believe he will fix whatever it was that caused him to be less productive 5-on-5. I think he'll find a way to improve that. And maybe it'll be setting up Reilly Smith. Maybe it'll be setting up Chris Kreider for another 30, 35 goal season. Whatever it is, he finds a way to be productive. Chris Kreider doesn't have the seasons he's had these last couple of years without Mika Zibanejad. Mika's the driving force. That's why they're constantly hugging each other. That bromance goes on. They are attached at the hip. They are the closest of friends. They are superb players. They look forward to playing the game together. And I think he's a big reason that Chris Kreider has been as good as he's been these last few years. So I don't find very much fault in Mika's play. Would you want more? I think you always want more. I think the Rangers got whatever was lacking in Mika last year. I think Vincent Trocheck might have made up for that with his play and with his production. So it kind of balances out. But yes, do you always want more from Mika as your number one guy? Yes, you do. So can he score 90 points? I don't know. I think I'd be happy to have him score 82 points. That would be fine for me. I just think he does so much for the team, and he brings it virtually every night. There's rarely a game where afterwards you say, boy, Mika, yeah, he didn't have it. Or the other guy was, hey, it's going to happen over 82 games. But I think Mika Zibanejad is right up there. I don't have any problem with his game whatsoever.
What do you think the value of these difficult playoff experiences is? Because we started at the outset, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, you lose to the Devils. This past year, you go to the conference final again. What do you think the value is in that?
I think that it serves to motivate. I mean, let's face it. These are players that are making a lot of money. They've got a lot of things going on in their lives away from the rink. There's family, there's whatever businesses they've got going, whatever appearances they've got going. But the bottom line is you need to be motivated in this game. And motivation, for the most part, has got to be self-motivation, especially at this level. The coach can't go in there night after night going, banging on the wall and throwing things around the locker room. It can't happen. So the players got to have that self-motivation. I thought from day one last year, the Florida Panthers were motivated by the fact that they had lost in the Stanley Cup final to Vegas the season before. I'm hoping that it'll be a similar situation, that the Rangers, as I mentioned with Adam Fox, were this close. Maybe that's the motivation to get them over the top. These guys are making a lot of money. They know if they play well, they'll make more money. They'll get the big contracts. But the prize, that motivation to win the Stanley Cup, to have your name engraved on the cup, that forever you'll be recognized as a champion, that's got to be a big motivating factor. And I think when you come close, as many of these Rangers have in 2 of the last 3 years, that's got to be the impetus to push you to that next step, to get you to win that round, get into the final, and take it all away.
When you take a look at a lot of the other top teams in the NHL, especially this season, there's a lot of turnover. Boston's has a lot of turnover. The Devils have a brand new roster with the goalie and a bunch of other guys. And Florida has lost a couple of key pieces as well. The Rangers, for the most part, are the exact same team. Is that a positive heading into a season like this after what they've experienced the last few years?
Yeah, you hope so. I think, don't forget that you've got 23 players on the squad, and you want them all feeling the same way. You want them pulling for each other. I think, we talked about trust from the coaches to the players. I think the players need to trust each other as well. And the belief that the guy next to you is going to get it done. Trust him to do his job. I do my job. If everyone does their job, we're going to be a really good team. And I think that by keeping the team together, there's a lot of unity. There's togetherness. Guys go out together when on the road. The families, guys with families get together. You want that togetherness so that there's a lot of friendship. There's a good bond together, and that when it comes down to crunch time, they're sticking up for one another and going that little extra, whatever it is. Is it another hit? Is it driving hard to the net? Is it standing up for my teammate who got knocked down? Whatever it is, you want that togetherness, and I think that helps. There's a bond where the team loves each other because, and the coaches have said this in the past. If you win together, if you win a championship, you'll be together for the rest of your lives, and it means something. I was just at a reunion of the '94 team. 15 players were there. The Russians are working back in Russia, so they couldn't make it. But it was great to see 15 players, the head coach, Mike Keenan, the general manager, Neil Smith, all together. That bond, that championship keeps them together forever. And I think when you have a team that's been together for a few years, you see the good things. You enjoy the good things about being in the locker room, about going out together for dinner on the road, whatever it is, that togetherness means something. And as a team, this is a team game. One guy can't win it. Sidney Crosby, greatest player of our era. Connor McDavid, the greatest player right now. You can't do it by yourself in hockey. There's got to be that team bond, that team togetherness, that willingness to give everything for the team so that the team can succeed. And if the team succeeds, the individual succeeds.
Last one from me, Sam. I've asked this question the last 3 years on the preview. What are you most curious about, and what do you want to know about this team? Last year, you said it was, are they hungry enough? Can they get off to a great start? And they got off to the best start in the history of the franchise.
Well, I would go back to what I mentioned just a little while ago, and that is, are they motivated to take that final step? Because it's so hard to win. Last year, they were good from beginning to end. They wound up with the most points in the league, 114. They kept driving. They kept the momentum going. They kept the determination. They had very few flat games. I'm interested to seeing, will they come out with that same determination to establish themselves as a team that's up here, or will they have to fight to get back into the playoffs? I would like to see them start out and let the league know the Rangers are the team to beat. We're the team, and we're going to show you what we're made of, and we're going for it this year. And I think if I see that, and again, good luck will certainly be a part of it throughout the season. But if I see that determination, I'll know this team has got a chance to take it all away.
Well, last question for me, Sam. Do you think they got it? Sam, this is Sam's last year as the voice of the New York Rangers. Is this the do it for Sam year? What do you think?
I've got my speech ready. Boys, again, it's the start of the season. It's 82 games. It is a grind. You know how tough, as I mentioned, how tough it is to win. You get into February, beginning of March. You've got to really push yourself. But as a team, this is one of the better teams in the league. And if those things that I pointed to earlier fall into place, this team will have a chance to go a long way. And with a little help and maybe my motivation, maybe they'll take it all the way. But this is a good Rangers team.
Sam Rosen, the absolute legendary voice of the New York Rangers. I mean, you're the best, Sam. I know I bother you from time to time, and we always welcome you. We always love having you on. Always love talking to you. Come back. come, for the maybe if at the deadline or come playoff time, we'd love to have you back on. I try not to ask too much. I know you're a busy individual, so I try my best to to let you be. But come back. We'd love to talk to you once we get closer to the playoffs. And you're an absolute legend, and we appreciate every second that you give us every time you come on with us.
You know where to find me.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's always fun.
Thank you so much. Sam Rosen, the legendary voice of the New York Rangers. For Nick Zararis, I'm Andrew Chelney. We'll talk to you next week.